everybody, welcome back to my channel. I don't know what that was. If you're new here, my name is Libby and you really picked one hell of a video to start watching. Oh, I feel so anxious right now. I have so many thoughts going through my mind right now, and let me just start by doing this. Trigger warning. This video, I'm going to talk about suicide and self-harm, and if that is something that triggers you, stop watching now. Go away. So I've talked about it before in a few of my videos, kind of mentioning that this is a topic that I want to cover, that being suicide and my personal experiences with depression and suicidal thoughts and just all that shit. So here it goes. I sat down the other day and I tried to film this, and I kind of got going and felt like, I don't know, I just was all over the place, which, I mean, what else is new, I guess, but I was all over the place and I felt like, do I even have a message? Like, what am I trying to tell people? And I just felt so overwhelmed that I just deleted that video. I want to start by saying that I don't think I have a message. I don't think that I have any sort of inspirational thing, or that at the end of this I'm going to be able to tell you some moral to the story or anything like that. Except for one simple thing, which is I'm still here. I mean, I guess that's good enough, right? That's what kind of is stressing me out, making me anxious, is like, okay, Libby, you're going to talk about such a heavy and dark topic. What's going to be the moral? What's going to be the point? What's going to be? And I don't know that I have one, except for just simply, it's something that we've got to talk about. We have got to start talking about this shit. Be able to speak from a place of experience, or place of, you know, someone you love is going through something like this. I don't know, but I just want to have the conversation. I just want to open up the doors and just start some sort of dialogue, because it's something that is so widespread and it's such an issue. Everybody who knows someone who struggles with this, whether you know it or not, I guarantee you, you know someone who has struggled with suicidal thoughts, but it's hard to talk about. It's scary to talk about. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start from the beginning. I'm going to start from my first story, my first experience with suicide. I'm getting more and more used to that word, because it's one of those things where when I say suicide or hurt myself or kill myself, or like, that's such, like, do you feel it? Like, do you feel that, like, oh my gosh, like, it's just so hard to hear and it's hard to say, but it's reality, and I gotta just kind of push through it, push through the uncomfortable feelings and just talk about it. What kind of has really finally pushed me to talk about this and to begin this conversation is that, you know, in recent news a couple of weeks ago, the designer Kate Spade killed herself, and then shortly thereafter Anthony Bourdain did as well. And probably like me, your Facebook or any other social media, your feeds were full of, you know, of course, rest in peace and things like that, but messages like, if you know anyone who's struggling, or here's the number to the suicide helpline. And I guess it could be worse. People could not be talking about it at all. At the same time, when people share that number, sometimes to me it can feel very like there, I did my thing, I shared the number, call them though, talk to them about it. Like, I can't help you. I can appreciate where, on one hand, like, where do you start? How do you have that conversation? What do you say to someone who wants to hurt themselves and whatnot? But at the same time, you know, to just put that number out there and say, if you're struggling, reach out. That is so much easier said than done. So much easier said than done. I saw this one post that talks about how Robin Williams You know, he seemed so happy, and Kate Spade's dad talked to her an hour before she killed herself, and she was full of life, and Anthony Bourdain's best friend said this, that, or whatever. And the message was that sometimes the people that you think are the strongest and the happiest are the ones that are struggling the hardest. And that's so true. Because I can tell you from my point of view, from my experience, I don't like to talk about this because you feel a lot of guilt. You feel like, you know, okay, so if I sit down with my friends and I talk to them about what I'm feeling and what I'm going through, it's kind of like, I don't want them to feel like they're not good enough. I don't want them to think that they're not worth living for. I don't want them to feel guilty and so instead I just don't share it all, and I just don't talk about it at all, because it's just such a complicated topic. It's just really easy to see things from one side and to point fingers and place blame than to try to see what they were going through and what they were suffering with. So, my first story, you know, as I started to record this the other day and kind of just spoke off the top of my head and from my heart and just, you know, said whatever was on my mind, I was thinking about the show 13 Reasons Why. And even if you haven't seen the show, you're probably familiar with it. You've probably at least heard of it, because it's been kind of on the news and things like that, because it's got kind of it's definitely been in the spotlight, because basically the show is about a girl, a high school girl. Her name's Hannah, and she kills herself. That's not a spoiler. You know that going into the show. You know it within the first 5 seconds. And the whole show, she's playing back, or rather she's made these videotapes recording the reasons why she killed herself, and, you know, it's being played for the people who are the reason, one of the reasons why. When I watched that show, it all starts with her going on a date with a boy, and from what I remember, she's wearing a skirt and they're at the playground. She goes down a slide, he takes a picture, and then this picture goes all over the school, and it says she is slut and things like that. And when I watched the show as an adult, as a confident woman, I thought to myself, like, girl, get over it. Like, be stronger than that. You're better than that. Who cares what people think? Until last week, when I tried to make this video and I was talking about my first experience with having suicidal thoughts, and I was a high school girl, and I remember, you know, those things that at our age seem so tiny, and come on, get past that, everything, you know, bigger picture things. As a teenager, it's so life or death. It kind of really helped me empathize with the character of Hannah Baker. And, you know, that might seem silly, like, okay, that'd be cool, so you could relate to is it fictional or is it non-fiction? Fiction's when it's fake. But it's like, okay, cool, you can relate to a fake character, who cares? There are high school kids out there, there are middle school kids out there, there are kids who struggle with these same kinds of things, and as an adult, it can be hard to understand, it can be hard to relate to. And sometimes you just got to put yourself back in that mindset of what it was like when you were that age. So, trying to think of how to tell this story without it being super duper long. Let me just say, this story is very juvenile. This story is very like, I liked a boy, and it, looking back, seems so weak to me. Because it's like, really, Libby? Come on, girl. Like, you let someone have that kind of control over you, but the truth of the matter is, yep, I did. My heart was broken, and I was humiliated, and I just didn't want to be here anymore. My family and I, we belong to a congregation, a church, and I had met a boy there in a youth group. And we just started talking, and I mean, it was very, very puppy love. I think I was probably 15, and I mean, it was so innocent. We would write notes to each other and give them to one another at church, and ugh, I still have them somewhere, and they're nauseating, but whatever. I don't even know what it is or what it was about me, but his mom hated me. So picture that, 15 years old, and this grown woman hates you. It's very weird. It's still very weird to me. Over time, his family stopped coming to that church. They moved and went to a new congregation, which is actually pretty significant because they had grown up going to this church. So for, 15, 16 years at least, like he and his brother and his parents, like his grandparents went to the church, like, so to have basically felt like I drove someone out of a church, I remember trying to like make jokes about it and haha, but like it felt kind of weird. My best friend at the time, she was also dating a boy that went to our church, and the two boys went to the same high school. And the guy he stopped coming to church, and this was back in, the early 2000s when, cell phones were around, but I didn't have a cell phone. He didn't have a cell phone, so like if I wanted to talk to him, I had to call his house, but of course his mom didn't like me, so how do you call the house? And she picks up, and so I didn't talk to him a lot towards the end of our relationship. So one day, my friend and we went up to their high school because I knew that he would be there, and she went and saw her boyfriend, and I went and found him, and I gave him my journal. And in it, I talked about my feelings for him, how, his kind of being at church one day and then being gone the next and not talking to him, how that made me feel. But I also talked about a lot of personal stuff as far as my family went. This was when I really first remember my parents fighting and kind of realizing that they were going to probably be getting divorced soon, and just kind of coming to terms with that. So it was a very personal situation, and very, I remember feeling so protective of my family. And I remember even writing in there things about, just being so upset and just not wanting to, I don't remember ever writing anything like wanting to hurt myself, but I remember writing just how upset I was. So I gave my journal to him, and it was because I wanted him to read it, and I wanted him to understand what I was going through and where I was coming from, because he was a good friend of mine, and he was just all of a sudden gone. Time went by, a few days or something like that, and what turned out to have happened is his mom got my journal, and I don't know if he gave it to her or what happened, but his mom got my journal and made a copy of it, made photocopies of every page of it, and gave it to the elders of the congregation of the church that we went to. And I remember they read it, and they called my parents and said that they had my journal, they had copies of it, they had read it, and that they wanted my parents to come up to the church and read it so that they could have a conversation with me. I feel all sorts of type of way right now. Just like, let that sink in. I'm 15 years old, and my first crush, my first love, because I loved him, my first crush, my first love, I stopped seeing him, I stopped talking to him. I trusted him with my most personal thoughts, and was repaid by having those thoughts shared with his mom, photocopied and shared with these, men my dad or my grandpa's age. And I have never in my life recall feeling so violated. I felt raw and exposed and vulnerable and just disgusted. So God bless my parents. My parents, I remember them telling me what was going on, and they asked me, "Do you want us to read your journal?" I was like, "No." They're like, "Okay." So they went up to the church, and they picked it up, and they got the copies of it, and they came back home, and I remember, me and my siblings, my parents, like sitting around and shredding the copies and kind of like making jokes of it. And I remember knowing that my family was trying to make me feel better about it. But I felt so naked That's the best way I can think of it. I felt just, because I felt like I betrayed my parents, because I had written in there about, you know, their marriage and and fighting and things like that. And to know that not only did I share it with him, which I don't think my parents would have had a problem with necessarily, because it's, you know, it's a peer, it's my friend, but just the fact that his parents saw it, and just all these, you know, elders in our congregation. And I felt so guilty, and I felt just so betrayed. I felt like I couldn't trust people. I was so broken. And now I'm 30. And if this happened to me at 30, I wouldn't need my parents to help me. I wouldn't need my parents to stand up for me. I wouldn't need my parents to fight that fight, because I'd be fighting it myself. But at 15 years old, I wanted to die. And I remember thinking, I was sitting in my bedroom, and we lived on this busy street, and I remember thinking, I'm just gonna go walk out into traffic. I'm just gonna walk out the front door, walk the 300 feet to the road, and I'm going to lay down. Because I thought that that's what I needed to do. I felt just so alone. And I can say now, 15 years later, that it's complicated. I don't blame him. I don't even blame his mom. I actually kind of feel bad. And I also kind of feel like, wow, you guys are really lucky. Because what if I had done something? You would have carried that guilt your whole lives, knowing that you provoked it. And I hesitate to say that because, again, at my age, at 30, I don't think that anyone is a reason to kill yourself. You know, Sean is not a reason for me if we broke up or divorced or whatever. Like, he's not a reason for me to kill myself, or if one of my parents, you know, died tragically. But I do think that people are a reason for you to live. And I can tell you that Sean is one of the reasons that I've never left, that I've never I can't say not hurt myself, but that I've never killed myself. So I don't know if that makes sense, but, you know, to me, people are a reason to stay, but they're not a reason to leave. I can relate to these teens who get bullied, and they feel like they have no choice because it's the only way to make it stop. I don't remember how I got through that. I don't remember specifically how I got past it. I know my family was definitely there, big time. My family definitely was there for me and reminded me that it wasn't me, it was them. I really want to dig for some big lesson to be learned about that story. I guess it could be as simple as, you know, telling that story or thinking about it. It seems so stupid. Who the fuck cares? I don't even know what the journal says anymore. I do still have it. But it's not our battle to judge. It's not our place to say, you get over it. It's not that big a deal. It's just a journal. It's just this. It's just that. It's not our place. Because things hurt. Things hurt us in different ways. What's important is to take the time and reach out to people and check in with them and ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. And I know that that's so much easier said than done because it's scary. What do you ask someone? Like, so you wanted to kill yourself today? Like, I get it. And I can tell you that it's easier to just, you know, don't script it. Don't Don't overthink it. Don't overanalyze. Don't think you have to say all the right things. Just have a real conversation. I think that that's something that has set me apart from other people. Not necessarily on this topic, but when it comes to things like loss, is I'll just talk to you very matter of fact, and I'll just, wow, that really fucking sucks. So how did that make you feel? Like, what did you do? If that were me, I would have been mortified. I would have just have a real honest conversation. But sometimes it's not as simple as, here's the number for you to call for you to talk to someone. Sometimes you have to kind of extract the information. If you know that someone's going through something, if you sense that maybe they're not around as much, or maybe they don't, text you as much as they used to, or send you as many snaps as they used to, or I don't really see them posting on Instagram as often, or whatever, reach out, check in. Because I'm one of those people that sometimes I don't always share. But if you ask me, I'll tell you anything. If you ask me a question, I have a very hard time lying, and I will tell you exactly what's going on. And a lot of people are like that. A lot of people want to share, but it's just, we don't know if you want to hear it. I am so aware of how overwhelming and intimidating and uncomfortable my depression can make people. And so sometimes I don't share because I don't want to make them uncomfortable. But if you ask me, hey, Libby, what's going on? That tells me you want to talk about it. Yay, first video's done. My plan is I'm going to keep doing these videos. I'm going to tell my stories one by one, or who knows, maybe I'll throw a couple into one video, but I want to do them one by one because they're very heavy for me. The fact that I'm shocked that I cried. I'm shocked. I did not expect that. But I want to share my stories with you one by one at a time, and just kind of say what's on my mind. At the very least, that, again, that dialogue and that conversation is started. If you have any questions for me, if you have anything you want to ask, like I said, I'll answer. Maybe you don't want to put it in my comments or on Facebook or whatever. If you want to just send me a message or a text, you can totally do that. But please don't hesitate to reach out. Maybe you know someone who's going through something and you don't know how to talk to them. Or maybe you are. Maybe you're going through something and you don't know. You feel like it's stupid that you're so upset over something as dumb as a journal being photocopied. If you need someone to talk to, I'm here. But I'm going to title every one of these videos with the same start, which will be the number to the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. If you don't want to talk to me, if you don't want to talk to a friend, you can talk to them. But I'm not shutting that door. I'm not saying, hey, that's on you. If you want to have that conversation with me, please reach out. But I'm going to hopefully, keep sharing of my stories, it'll make you feel warmer and more comfortable with sharing yours. I appreciate you watching. I appreciate you having an open mind and being with me while I start this conversation, because it's fucking scary. I've been dreading making this video all day, all week. So until next time, I hope that you're having a great day, a great night, week, month. Take care and have a great day.